The understanding that you are destined to spend the rest of your existence behind bars, or at least a substantial part of your prime years, is unquestionably a shattering ordeal. Although it is accurate that a life sentence typically follows the commission of a grave offense, individuals who receive this punishment do not all handle it equally. Despite the justifiability of the severity of the penalty, one must not underestimate the emotional and psychological burden of confronting such a grim prospect. Welcome everyone. In today's video, we will talk about the top 10 crazy reactions to life sentences. Let's begin. 10. Darrell Brooks went on a rant. The fact that an individual receives 6 life sentences generally indicates the commission of a heinous act. Regrettably, Darrell Brooks is a case in point. He deliberately drove his SUV into a crowd of individuals gathered at a Christmas parade, resulting in 76 charges against him, including the murder of 6 people and the injury of numerous others. Brooks responded by delivering an extensive and absurd statement that lasted for hours, wherein he not only insulted the district attorney, but also focused more on expressing remorse for not being perceived as remorseful, rather than offering apologies for his actions. As a consequence of his crimes, he was handed a sentence of nearly 800 years. 9. Alan McCarty was dragged away. Alan McCarty Jr.'s legal troubles began with a child custody dispute, but they escalated significantly when he proceeded to issue death threats against a judge. Consequently, his initial problems were compounded, and he also made threats against lawyers, including the unborn child of one. As a result of these actions, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Upon hearing this unfavorable verdict, it came as no surprise that McCarty reacted in an agitated manner once again. He verbally abused the court, accused the judge of dishonesty, used racial slurs, and had to be forcibly removed from the room. 8. Randall Moore was remorseless. Expressing remorse is typically considered a favorable way to potentially lessen a severe sentence, but if one lacks genuine remorse, it cannot be feigned. In the case of Randall Moore, he displayed no remorse for the murder of his wife and the shooting of a police officer, resulting in him receiving 3 life sentences. During the court hearing, while the victim's mother was delivering an impact statement, Moore interrupted her to cruelly assert that her daughter despised her and that she was a failure. Furthermore, Moore explicitly stated that he felt no remorse and shifted the blame onto the victim's mother and others whom he believed prevented him from seeing his son. He even callously informed the police officer he shot that he could have killed him if he had desired to do so, but instead he considered it a favor not to. 7. Ronnie O'Neill wasn't sorry. Ronnie O'Neill, after being convicted of killing his girlfriend and their daughter, faced sentencing in 2021. The judge presiding over the case, deeply affected by the gravity of the crimes, delivered a sentence consisting of 3 consecutive life sentences, along with an extra 60 years of imprisonment. The judge expressed that she considered this crime to be among the most horrendous she had ever witnessed. During the court proceedings, Ronnie O'Neill took the opportunity to address the court. In a shocking turn of events, he asserted that he was the one who loved the victims the most, implying that his actions were driven by a twisted form of affection. He showed no willingness to express remorse or apologize for the harm he inflicted upon his girlfriend and their daughter. This refusal to acknowledge the consequences of his actions and the pain he caused further underscored the severity and callousness of his crimes. 6. Seth Welch and his wife were blown away. Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari were found guilty of the tragic crime of deliberately starving their 10-month-old child to death. A video capturing their sentencing hearing went viral, as it depicted the couple seated next to each other while an off-camera judge delivered the verdict of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. At that moment, Fusari became visibly emotional, shedding tears, while Welch's jaw dropped, revealing a profound sense of shock that suggested he had been unaware of the potential severity of the punishment for such a heinous crime. 5. Trey Relford hugged his victim's father. In an unprecedented display that defies conventional expectations in cases involving murderers being held accountable, Trey Relford performed an extraordinary act that is exceptionally rare. He embraced the father of his victim, a man who, despite enduring the heartbreaking loss of his child, found it within himself to extend forgiveness to the perpetrator and share a heartfelt embrace in the presence of the court. This exceptional act of compassion and reconciliation stands out as an extraordinary and profoundly moving gesture within the context of the courtroom proceedings. 4. Adrian Dunn tried to fight courtroom deputies. During a failed drug transaction, Adrian Dunn fatally shot Rakim Charles. Prosecutors highlighted Dunn's extensive criminal record during the trial, indicating a high likelihood of his reoffending based on past behavior. The judge appeared to share this perspective and subsequently sentenced Dunn to life imprisonment. Confirming these concerns, Dunn proceeded to engage in a physical altercation with up to 5 court deputies, resisting their attempts to restrain him and directing derogatory remarks toward them. 3. TJ Lane cold-heartedness. TJ Lane emerged as a chilling embodiment of a remorseless killer. At the age of 18, he was found guilty of perpetrating a school shooting that resulted in the deaths of 3 individuals and left 3 others wounded. During his sentencing hearing, where he received a life imprisonment verdict, Lane chose to wear a self-made t-shirt with the word killer inscribed in black marker, exhibiting a callous disregard for the severity of his actions. Throughout the trial, Lane demonstrated a complete lack of empathy or respect for the families of his victims. At one point, he abruptly turned his chair to face the bereaved families, uttering vulgar and offensive remarks before defiantly gesturing with his middle finger, adding further insult to their immense grief and pain. This contemptuous act served to underscore his lack of remorse and disregard for the devastating consequences of his actions. TJ Lane's behavior during his sentencing and trial portrayed a deeply disturbing disregard for human life and a blatant disregard for the suffering of his victims' families, leaving an indelible impression of his cold-heartedness and lack of empathy. 2. Erica Mae Butts screamed and hyperventilated. Erica Mae Butts and Shanita Latrice Cunningham stood trial for the murder of a 3-year-old child under their care. While Cunningham admitted guilt by pleading guilty, Butts opted for an Alford plea, maintaining her innocence but acknowledging the likelihood of conviction if the trial proceeded. The two might have anticipated some leniency, but their hopes were dashed when the judge handed down a sentence of life imprisonment. As the judge pronounced the sentence, Butts experienced a complete breakdown in the courtroom. She let out screams, collapsed, and began hyperventilating in a state of extreme distress. Meanwhile, Cunningham fainted and had to be wheeled out of the courtroom due to her physical and emotional reaction to the situation. 1. Michael Marin ended it all. Michael Marin, facing financial hardship and unable to meet his mortgage payments, devised a plan to alleviate his financial troubles. Initially intending to raffle off his mansion for charity but unsuccessful in doing so, he resorted to a drastic scheme, burning down the house to claim insurance money. After being apprehended and brought to trial, Marin quickly realized the gravity of the charges against him, which included arson and insurance fraud. The minimum sentence he could receive was 7 years, but the maximum could extend to 21 years. Given his age of 53, such a sentence would essentially equate to life behind bars. When the judge delivered the guilty verdict, Marin's reaction was captured as he lifted his hands to his face in apparent despair. However, what no one realized at the time was that his reaction went beyond despair. Marin had concealed a cyanide capsule in his mouth, which he then ingested along with a drink. Shortly after, he began experiencing convulsions and tragically passed away in plain view of everyone present in the courtroom. The unexpected turn of events shocked and deeply impacted those witnessing the scene. Thank you for joining us in exploring the top 10 incredible reactions to life sentences. From unexpected acts of forgiveness to courtroom chaos and emotional breakdowns, these cases have left a lasting impact. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating insights. Stay tuned for more captivating stories and intriguing discussions.